It's a privilege for us to be here again on this beautiful Sabbath morning. I know that the sun is not shining outside, but hopefully it's shining in our hearts. I have to say that personally, I have been enriched by this conference. And even though we were collaborating and participating in the planning, we have been moved and we've been blessed by the speakers, by the participants, by everything that has happened here. Last night, the bakers spoke to us and gave us an amazing presentation. And what I appreciated about what they did was they said, you know, we've highlighted a lot of the problems, and there are problems, and we can't ignore that there are problems. But whenever there are problems, there are also opportunities. There are opportunities for growth. And as a psychologist, I am one that believes in solutions-focused therapy and counseling. And that's because I serve a solutions-focused God. And so God has always provided solutions for our problems. And so we really have nothing to worry about. And sometimes I think as Christians, we feel that if we're not walking around rehearsing the difficulties, then something is wrong. But it's not. It's okay for us to trust God and to have faith. And so today, as we go into another problematic, we go into it with a full understanding that God has answers. And so this morning, again, we will hear from the Requenas, and my task is to introduce Dr. Boitumelo Kagelo.
I also have words of greeting just before we introduce the speakers. I wanted to say Happy Sabbath. Can I have a little bit more on this? Happy Sabbath. There you go. Happy Sabbath. Happy Sabbath. I see the chancellor is in the house, so we're safe. And the vice chancellor is over here, so we're really doubly safe. Praise God, from whom all blessings flow. Let's go with the Requenas.
All right, so Dr. Boitumelo is a clinical psychologist. As my husband said yesterday, she's a quiet force, but she's a brilliant woman, and it's been a privilege for me to sit with her and to talk with her and to be her colleague in ministry in this Southern Africa Indian Ocean Division and in their division. And we've had the opportunity to spend time with them, to present with them, and so I am delighted to present her to you this morning.
And we're also equally pleased to present Dr. Kagelo Requena, a man of God, a man that's well prepared. He has done well in that he has produced fruit in $2, Canelo and Tetelo. So he's a real African. If he could have 8 more, then he'll be a real African. But we're delighted. They're waiting for offer of La Bola. We will talk more about that this afternoon, but if you have any sons, they have 2 daughters, and we can arrange for it.
It looks like you've adopted yourself as the negotiating uncle.
I could be. No pork, no wine. I should have said no swine, no wine. Praise God. We're delighted for this opportunity and that all of you are here. It's always good to be in Africa. It's always good to be in Kenya. And it's even better to be on Advent Hill with God's people on God's day studying from God's Word. So let's be blessed. And let's open our hearts to the blessings of God. I think just before we hear from the Requenas, we'll have our theme song with Sister Papu.
Shall we all rise? Singing. Good morning, brothers and sisters, and happy Sabbath. What a blessed day we had yesterday, and also what a blessed Sabbath we have today. We have been blessed being here, challenged, and we appreciate being here. And we want to thank you, all of you, for coming, especially our presidents who are busy and also they don't have a portfolio that says you are a director of family ministries. But by their presence here, we will never forget that they were here, that they had given us support, especially the presidents of unions and also of divisions. We want to appreciate your presence. We appreciate AUA for hosting us here. When we move about the campus, you can just not stop praying that God continue to sustain this campus and bless the leadership. Amen. Amen. We are dealing with divorce. Have you ever wondered what divorce is? What is divorce? Yeah, divorce is a separation of a husband and a wife who were married. Yeah. Divorce is breaking it apart. The two that were once one, yeah? That is divorce. Yeah, I hear you. Divorce is when a woman or a man stands before the mirror and the mirror tells him or her the defects that he or she needs to take care of, and decides to take rid of the mirror. Divorce happens when a man or a woman stands before the mirror and the mirror tells him or her that you have defect here, take care of that. And says, instead of taking care of those things, it takes care of the mirror and destroys it. And that mirror happens to be the spouse. Divorce is when a man or a woman is put in a corner by his or her spouse. And the challenge is that you have to grow up to be a real man or a real woman, and chickens out. Divorce is running away from your point of growth and being polished. Divorce in another way is also running away from yourself. I say, man, I have left him. He was giving me a lot of hell. I have left her. No, you didn't. You are carrying her along with you. It is yourself. Divorce. Divorce in Africa, is it going up? Where is it? And what are studies saying? We have some literature there that is saying something about divorce in Africa. Divorce.
So, as you already know, divorce is a worldwide problem.
Mm-hmm.
Divorce rates are rising, and to extent that even the various professionals are looking for solutions how to arrest the issue of divorce. So studies regarding family issues are few when it comes to Africa. There are few. We have gone through these studies, and later on we'll make recommendations. So, as we have already said, there are few studies done in Africa. However, these studies are consistent with European and American countries when it comes to divorce, the effects of divorce when it comes to mothers and children. There's much research on that area. So, children of divorced families compared to non-divorced individuals are more likely to manifest stressful relationships, poor academic performance, and they are more likely to engage in substance and drug abuse.
They are affected emotionally, especially children, and this continues to show up when they make choices for their life partners in their relationships. And in Africa especially also, that the children of divorced households are more likely to die of a young age. We have a study that was done also in Malawi and then also another one in Ghana. And also to show that sometimes even the mothers who are divorced, even when they remarry, they continue to suffer from economic hardships, even in the second marriage.
And divorce also comes with a package of 3 common experiences. It comes with step families, blended step families or blended families. It comes with a single parenting, remarriage, and those come with, it means they come also with their own baggage. So as he has already mentioned, the women continue to suffer poverty even after remarriage, because you are coming with the baggage from the previous marriage, which are stepchildren, which need to be taken care of. And you have shared your possession, and so you continue to somehow suffer negative effects when it comes to this.
That means also divorce is expensive, emotionally and economically. It's an expensive endeavor. People prepare for weddings and say, man, this is going to be an expensive wedding. Try divorce. That is something else.
So both men and women also are indicated to experience disrupted social networks and decrease when it comes to social support. Because obviously during this time, some are entangled in emotional issues of divorce, and they are taking sides instead of helping the couple. So this leads to loss when it comes to social support and social networks. And it has indicated that these people who divorce, they continue to suffer from depression, anxiety, and impulsivity.
And those women who have no profession, the chances of suffering become even more. They had put everything in one basket, trusted their husbands, as love should be, and then when they are left abandoned and left with the children, that becomes very hard.
And some non-custodial fathers, they reported that they feel disoriented and rootless because of decreased contact with their own children.
Yeah, those the fathers who love their children, some of them don't care. Yeah.
So there are reasons why the divorce rate is going up, which was mentioned in the literature, and we are going to go through that. One of those reasons is that there's a number of wives who are joining the labor force, and there are preschool mothers who are entering and are remaining in the labor force, which challenge sort of gender roles and has related, a negative impact when it comes to interaction as a couple.
The stigma of divorce is also going. That divorce has become accepted or getting more and more accepted. So it is easy to get divorced. So if you divorce, you are not the only one.
So we talked also yesterday about urbanization, industrialization, which comes with urbanization. And we said many people are leaving for jobs and education to go to towns to look for better life. And this has sort of interfered with our positive traditions and values and family bonds. So there's less independence when it comes to extended families in making decisions about marriage and raising children. So there's sort of no support, or there's less support, sort of.
And also mixed marriages of tribes and nationalities poses a challenge to compatibility, and divorce, that also contributes to divorce. And also those who are victims of HIV/AIDS, or who their spouses suspect that they might have contracted disease, they end up divorcing because of mistrust.
So one of those which was also not mentioned in the literature, but which we know that is there, is infidelity. When we fail to take care of each other's needs, whether it can be emotional, whether it can be sexual, the other partner goes outside the marriage to meet those needs. So that's where infidelity comes in, and then lack of trust, and the marriage is dissolved.
The other thing that is mentioned there is women who believe that they come from the mother's side rather than from the father's side. If the emphasis is on the lineage of the mother, the divorce rates in those tribes also goes high.
I would like to mention something which has been mentioned in the literature, because when it comes to infidelity, it's not a joke. One question was asked, what do you think is the most painful thing or the worst thing when you compare with infidelity? Can you think of anything or any pain that is worse than infidelity? Can we? So some women thought that it was worse than physical abuse. Some thought it was worse than gang rape. And which support the fact that it's really difficult to think of anything that is worse than infidelity. So when you go out there and you come back, know how much you have traumatized the other person. Don't take things for granted and say, oh, I keep on saying forgive me and you don't. It's not an easy thing.
You have broken trust, and you have taken the precious gifts of your spouse and sold them out there to a stranger, and taken the trash of the stranger and brought it back home with it.
So another thing which we are going to look at with these studies, we are going to look at divorce with the sub-Sahara countries. What is happening there when it comes to divorce? So Bruna and Clark contributed greatly when it comes to these African studies, especially on family issues. So he studied 33 countries where he used existing data, which was collected in the late 1980s. And his intention was to study three research questions. How common is divorce across countries when it comes to Africa? And what is its geographical distribution? And the second question was to see whether divorce is rising, declining, or stable. And the third one was to look at factors which are associated with urban or industrialization, whether they are significantly correlating with the divorce. And these are the findings.
So as they looked at this study in 33 countries of Africa, looking at that data that was collected between 1980, since 1980, when they collected demographic data in each country, the questions are similar from one country to another. So you can compare and see what is going on. They are looking at how many people are divorcing within less than 20 years, between 15 and 19 years of marriage. We know that people will divorce even earlier than that. But they captured that age. And also they are looking at how many wives have at least a secondary school education. And they look also at the age of marriage of the husband and the wife. And they look at, are these women employed outside the home? Are also these women living in the city or in the town? And what difference will that make? So when you look at the results, they say within 15 to 19 years of marriage, an average of 33% of unions ended. And they are looking at 25 which were ended in divorce, 8% which ended up in death, and divorce was found to be common among all countries, and the main cause of separation was divorce instead of death.
So let's look at the map to see how the divorce is distributed with these countries, the sub-Saharan. So
you look at these countries there, and also Madagascar there, our island there. You see that less than 20%, that will be considerably very good. And then 20% plus until 30%, between 20 and 30%. And that is the average. They are close to the average. And these ones are more than the average there. You see, it's 30 to 40%. They are just above average there of 30%. And then we have 40 and higher percent of divorce. You have to consider that they are looking at couples between 15 and 19 years of marriage. So you haven't put in those who are between 1 and 14 years in marriage. So when you look at this group of people, the divorce is going that level. And then when you look at the results there, look there that it is low in Burkina Faso, Kenya, Mali, and Nigeria. Those who are less than 20%. And close to average, those countries there. And moderately high on those other countries. And highest were found in war-torn, unstable countries such as Liberia. And you see that there are 40% and higher on divorce.
When you look at the second question, whether the divorce is rising, declining, or stable, you will find that the divorce rate is not rising when it comes to sub-Saharan countries. This is contradictory to the previous findings. At least 50% are declining and 30% stable. So on average, there's a 1/3 of marriage end up in divorce in less than 20 years. And many of these countries and we can see that divorce is, marriage continues to be fragile when it comes to this. We may be consoled and say that, well, divorce rate is not rising, but these numbers are big. 20%, 30%, 40% in other countries. That's big, because we have not yet factored other issues. So we need to be intentional and see what to do with this.
When they say 50% declining of those countries, they are declining even at a higher note, and 30% stable. When we look at other developed countries, we are going where other developed countries are going. They reach a certain peak and they become stabilized. Once also the progress of industrialization continues, you begin to pick up the momentum and go even faster. So that means there are other factors that made us to be stable in those countries or begin to decline slowly on divorce.
So we have to look at factors which can help us when it comes to maintaining marriage and help in reducing divorce rates. Because as he has already said, industrialization is associated with a high divorce rate. And we are getting there. And so these other people, the Western, have gone before us so that we don't go through that pain. So it's not where we can say, oh, now we are comfortable. No, it's time to work and see what we can do.
It's interesting also that the scholars predict that 85% of women will have at least one child below the age of 15 years at the time of divorce. And that is a very vulnerable age of when they go through the parents' divorce, leading to a large number of single mothers and perhaps step families and children without their fathers. And that experience, when they get into courtship and marriage, begins to threaten their well-being also in their relationships.
So now we are getting into the third research question. Are factors associated with industrialization significantly correlated with divorce at a country level? So the researchers assessed which are variables were associated with the divorce, both across and within countries over time. And these are the results.
Urbanization and women's employment are positively associated with divorce. And that means when people go to cities and towns, and also when women get employed, divorce rates, they begin to rise. The second point there, women's age at first marriage and secondary education are negatively associated with divorce. Those who had the secondary education and they also, their age on marriage is higher, they are more stable in their marriages than those who did not have at least a secondary education. This will mean that you will see that some of our countries and some of our tribes, they still have marriages of people who are 15 years old, 18 years old, 19-year-olds. Are we together there? Do I have a witness on that one? Yeah. And the early people get into marriage, the less mature they are. When they are 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, they should be at school. When they are 19, 20, they should be somewhere at school. And the longer they stay in school, the more years they accumulate. And the mature they become. So people who will linger longer in school, they avoid getting married, they avoid having children, and they get mature. So that is what their conclusions are there.
And based on that, it is interesting to note that just the increase of 5 years of women's age at first marriage corresponds to 12% points in decline when it comes to divorce. Conclusions.
Stable declining divorce rates mostly still high in divorce. This means single mothers and their children continue to suffer the effects of divorce, and step-families are still high in Africa. Needs of divorced women and children needs to be taken care by each country or by us as church members. Africans should look into factors that could maintain marriage and continue to reduce divorce while industrialization is going on. Industrialization is going rapidly in Africa. That means we are losing ties with the extended family. And we are, just as we said yesterday, we are hiring maids. Our kids are going early to school. And we are becoming more civilized, and civilization comes with those challenges.
So we said education and increase of years before marriage sort of produce individuals who are mature and are likely to stay in marriage. So with this then, we have to encourage our young people, both boys and girls, to go to school and be serious with school.
And if our church will listen also to the admonitions of Mrs. White that we should discourage early marriages, more especially when it comes to divorces that are many among young couples, that will be in line with that. Young couples don't produce stable marriages, more especially when they are very young. They are school-age children who get into marriage.
When people are under pressure, they are more likely to go to where they can find rescue. And where is that? Church. What does that mean? It means we have to know that we are a hospital, as we have already said. And if indeed we are a hospital, these are the issues which we will be confronted with. Children who will be coming from broken families, who have the emotional baggage, the pain, the hurt, and they will be relating to you in a way that probably you don't expect. And what should you do? You have to be prepared even before these things come, that the church is a hospital, and how do we help this individual?
That becomes tough because we are told also in literature, and this is a fact, that when you get married, you gravitate to somebody who has similar emotional baggage. While we come from different families or even different tribes, but the pain that we have that drives us and the emotional baggage that is there, that is mostly similar to the person that you are going to fall in love and end up marrying. That means you become equals. You become equals when you get to that, on the emotional baggage sense of the word. To such an extent that somebody who has been abused, somebody who has been abandoned, who comes from a divorced family, will most likely go through the same experience in the marriage relationship. Even in abusive relationships, we wonder, are abusive relationships and people are similar also? Yes. Somebody who abuses the other and the other one is so quiet and nice, and the other one is an abuser. Are they similar? Yes, the emotional baggage is similar. Let's believe that these bottles are the same. In abusive relationship, what happens is that the abuser has a bottle full of abuse. The abuser has a bottle full of abuse. And this bottle is the same size with this other one. Yeah. Yeah. There you go. I have a deacon here. In abusive relationship, even just similar to a non-abusive relationship, people are the same packages of emotional baggage. In abusive relationship, they are also the same containers of sensitivity. They have same containers. There you go. Thank you. The abuser has a full bottle of abuse. Either it is abuse by language, verbal abuse, insults and all that, or is beating up. The other one doesn't beat back. That means this guy, when he comes with a bottle of abuse, this other one who's at home has a similar container which is empty. And the same size. He pours all the abuse inside there. And he gets in there. If you tell the abuser that don't beat up your wife, he is listening, but he can't help it because he has to come with an empty container, and he sees that the container is still empty, and pours it there. So you talk to the abuser, to the victim, to look for that bottle that is empty, to destroy it, so that when the abuser comes, he has nowhere to place the abuse. So that the abuser is held responsible for all the nonsense that is doing in the family. Let us give you an example there. A bully at school. Says all the words during the tea break to this little guy. Your mom is fat and lazy, and she's just a couch potato. She doesn't do anything. And the little boy says, man, he shrinks and he feels like beating up this guy, can't take him down. And other students are laughing at this boy. The boy goes for counseling. The therapist says to him, wow, that bully should be telling the truth. Wow, what is going on? The bully telling the truth? Yeah, inside the bully's mind, there's a monster there that is fat and ugly. And usually bullies are not smart in class. So you help him finish the composition. He says, your mom is fat and lazy. He says, man, you are telling the truth. That's why they divorced 2 weeks ago. That monster that is in his mind, help him finish the sentences. Your mom is fat and lazy. Yeah, that's why they divorced 2 weeks ago. And the bully keeps quiet. Gets another bad word. Says, man, that is a good missile. I know you can do better than that. Give me some more. It's empowering the victim to realize that I cannot take it anymore and cry without even insulting back. Is that the best we can give? I can give me some more. And the bully gives it out there. In a relationship at home, the bully who has a lot of stuff, the abuser, usually the other one acts out and verbalizes it out, and it doesn't work. As we try to help the bully or the abuser to stop it, help also the victim also to be empowered so that they can live better even in that until the abuser realizes that I will not go anywhere with this. When people get married, they gravitate to each other who are emotionally sensitive the same way. When somebody comes for counseling and says, and you say, where is your husband? My husband is stubborn. He didn't come here. I tried to. You know that also she's stubborn, even though she has come for counseling. You are going to work hard to make her do assignments. The only advantage is that she has come, but they are stubborn the same way. When you deem that your wife is stupid, why were you so wise and yet choose a stupid somebody? You are stupid also. Therefore, if people are coming from broken homes and they have broken hearts, they are going to meet people who have broken hearts in our churches. And each one of them, they need support. And he's not prepared to give what they need also. He's waiting for the other to offer support, and this other one is also waiting. They are not prepared for a relationship. So that means that after the church in Africa is going to be full, or is full of people who have pains from these broken homes. And they are going to get into marriages with pains, with people who have pain. And what do you expect?
So our recommendation is that we get people who are professionals, social workers, psychologists to deal with these issues, pastoral counselors to deal with these issues, so that we really prepare the church. If they are not sponsored or educated, we need to think about what we are going to do from here.
And we should say this also, that thank God for AUA and for DMIN in family ministries and also chaplaincy. These professionals will help deal with these things. Our challenge is that the few that come to AUA for DMIN in family ministries, they end up being something else. It is like our church. You train pastors to go and minister to Muslims. After they are well trained and groomed, you put them among Indians or something else. Or they never meet a Muslim for the rest of their ministry. Well, they are well trained. After training a pastor to deal with, to reach the Muslims, you put him in a place where there are no Muslims. After training our pastors to deal with family ministries, and they graduate and say, amen, hallelujah, we make them presidents. And if you are a president, bless your heart, at least be sensitive to families. Amen? To the ministerial families as well. But our emphasis here is that we need professionals in Africa that are trained specifically for families. And let us linger in that area for a long time, so that we produce material and programs for our families that are needy in our churches. Our churches will not continue to die while we have AUA here. We are looking forward to see family ministries directors in unions and conferences who can sit down and wrestle with issues of divorces in our churches and in our communities. People are looking for answers.
Kinship and community. Churches has to become a villages, as we have already said yesterday, in which we are all related in one way or the other. So let's carry those positives from one generation to another. Let's find out who we are, what we are made of, what are the positives, what are the weaknesses that we need to leave behind. So not just to do away with everything because you are an African.
And also our seminars. When we talk to our youths in general, some of the needs are the same for young people. But those who come from broken homes, they have some particular needs that need to be met. They don't have a father out there. And they don't have a role model out there. That means we are going to be parents, not only to our children, but other children that have come in our churches. And this is a challenge. This is a challenge. And we emphasized yesterday that there should be not only premarital counseling, but post-counseling. And also, we'll also emphasize that as we send and assign pastors to districts, let us evaluate and see the social life, the social-political world of the church and the district where we are sending our professionals. Let us try to match up our pastors with what is going on in that area so that they meet the needs not only of the local church, but also of the community. So that you don't send a young pastor to a mature church or the community that needs an experience that is going to deal with issues that he has never thought he will deal with them before. That will be just drowning him there, and he will just suffocate for survival. There is something also we want to say there, that in SID, where we come from, we have a personal ministries director, Pastor Michael Ngwaru. As we looked at some of these issues, what can be done practically to deal with the pain of divorce, single parenting, of pain, of anger, and what can be done? So he wrote a book that deals with family issues that we are talking about. It's a drama where you see a couple interacting with life and things are happening there. There's an infidelity in there. Children are born outside marriage there. Issues of forgiveness are raising up in there. Pain is up there, anger. And it raises issues in a drama form. When you read the first chapter, you cannot put this book down. You want to know what next. It is so friendly to Adventists and non-Adventists. We teamed up, wrote a study guide on those issues. Issues like divorce, like the Bakers did well on that last night. Forgiveness, what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is not forgetting. Forgiveness is remembering without pain. Forgiveness is not balancing the equation. That he hurt me so much, I'll give him back so much. They hurt you without reason, you forgive them without reason. And then we deal with anger. You are angry with your dad, you are angry with your father, who left your mother. What do you do with the anger issues here? So what is happening? We are training our church members and pastors, especially as we prepare for Gauteng for 2018. A lot of pastors are trained and church members. One church elder, with other team of church elders, they went to their church. Said, what can we do? Said, let us do it during divine service. They went ahead of the church and arranged chairs in groups of 10 to 15. During the divine service, they read one chapter. And they started discussing among themselves, church members, about the pain of forgiveness. And they summarized the chapter. In the afternoon, they came back to do the second chapter. They left the church at 8 p.m. And then the church sat down and said, man, we are going to also participate in Gauteng for Christ. Make small groups. So they began to register small groups in the church to reach the community. for people that are hurting. We have this book for teenagers. Also, it has a study guide to look at substance abuse, look at violence at school, to look at self-acceptance. As the adults were dealing with the book for adults, the children were also dealing with the book for teenagers at the same time. We are heading for something that we have never done there, and we are hopeful that will have impact in South Africa there for Gauteng for Christ.
And would like to thank the Olivers with this, because they really pushed us into doing this thing. It was like, me, if I don't want to do something, I don't want. But they kept on pushing until we realized that we need to do something. So thank you, the Olivers.
We want you to write material. Let us write material, let us organize ourselves. Those of us who have passion for families, let us do the mean and stay there and produce material and save Africa. Africa cannot go to hell and go for suffering in family relationships while we are there as Adventists in Africa. We are the light for Africa and to save them. We are done. Thank you so much.
We are grateful to the Rakwenas for this presentation. I think it's thought-provoking. We want to get your questions. If you have any, indicate. Remember, 20 seconds. Don't summarize, go straight to your question. Any hand? I can see one there, two here. Any other? 3, 4, 5, madam. I think let's, okay, 6, if we keep to time. Let's start. Somebody is there at the back. It's the first I noticed, and then the second was somewhere. If you know your numbers, okay. I think you are the second. 20 seconds.
It's not a question, but it's just a comment. You made a point, Dr. and Dr. Rakwena, that it's important for those who are taking care of this work in our region to make sure that they're prepared for the task. Sometimes we have been elected to this office of serving as a director of Family Life Ministries, but for some reason we have no preparation, we have no idea. We would like to encourage each one of us to be intentional as far as this one is concerned, and thank you for making mention of that. Thank you.
Second person.
Thank you for raising the level of awareness among us as ministers for our people. I'm asking a question in connection with finding data that can help us make decisions and act. How do you establish that so much % of the people divorce in an African setting where some people do not have their marriages registered? Some people just come and we stay until they are finally recognized. How do you really find objectively factual information that you can base on and say, so many are in this situation? How did you accommodate this African setting whereby Some people have no registered marriages.
Okay. In this article of these scholars, they not only looked at marriages, they looked at those who have been cohabiting for many years. And whatever relationship they called it, they put them together and see that children are born there, whether they are cohabiting or legally or signed marriage, they all put together as marriage for Africans. And then they looked at the trends from country to country that we are similar in that nature, that people stay together and they are not legally, or they have not even given out lobola, but they are couples. So they put them together and realize that the separation of people who have cohabited for 10 years and those who have married for 10 years, the pain is the same.
What I'm trying to say, these people separate. We don't know how to label whether divorce or not. And no one has any record of that can be used by a scholar. They live together for 10 years, 15 years, and then they separate, nothing, no record, nothing. We don't know whether they're divorced or not.
The demographics ask you, do we have a relationship between this age and this age? And they say yes. And some of them, as they say yes, they're in the third relationship or second relationship. So they can gauge that the verbal response of the people that are interviewed, that they have been in a relationship, even though I'm in this one, that one ended up in separation.
Thank you for the presentation. I just want to ask the two set books you've just shown us with their study guides. Can one have a copy? Do you have extra copy that you can dispose?
Yeah, that we did a dishonor by not coming with enough copies for all of us. We are sorry about that. And also you need to be trained so that you sit in a group yourself so that you know what to do and what is going on. But we should have come with enough copies. We have come with copies for our brothers who are coming from Zimbabwe, because tomorrow we are having advisory here with them, because they are new in the field. So we have enough copies for them for training. But for the rest of us, we are sorry for that. But we can organize. Yeah, we can organize and do something about that.
Right. Thank you for your presentation. The first point you made was that divorce is a universal problem all over. But where will you put what I may call primary cause of divorce, like selfishness or self-centeredness, lack of love, unforgiveness, and where would you classify those?
Yeah, when we were going through the literature, we realized that yes, there are reasons which are left out, and some of them are major reasons. And so, yeah, it can be one of those. And because we know that there are three major reasons of divorce, which is finances, sex, in-laws. And the underlying issue with this one is the emotional baggage we are talking about, which is the bedrock of the marriage. So those are left out.
Yeah. Thank you for your presentation. I just wanted to ask, I've made an observation, especially among the young ladies who are working for the church. And when I'm talking about the church, I'm talking about all the units of the church, like academic institutions. So I've seen young ladies who are reluctant about marriage. And they seem to be getting to a situation where you think that they are getting old and, and so I don't know what is the issue. Are they afraid of marriage? Could there be some other issues? I don't know. And what can you tell us about this? Thank you.
I think I'm like you. I don't really know what could be the problem. So unless I sit down with them and find out really what's going on. But one of those things which we talked about, which we need to mark, is that the emotional baggage, the hurt, the past wounds, which are probably keeping them away from getting married. So I don't know.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rakwenas. I have two observations. One is a question. Let me start with the suggestion. Is it possible, within your constraints and within your experience, you are trained, there's no doubt about it. Is it possible to collaborate with other directors of other divisions to come up with an instrument that would look at the current data? Because I think it's worse than the 80s. It's worse than 5 years ago. I think it's easier these days, the Office of Archives and Statistics, periodically, even last year, they were running a global questionnaire, and churches are very willing to administer it. Is it possible to do that? And if it will require 5 years or what, it will be something that can be carried out from one director to another or one administration to another, and look at maybe specific issues, but also do within the church, because we are catering for the same people. I don't know in other countries, but where I come from, even what we call customary marriages, they are registered with the chiefs. And the office of those people, maybe customary or what, they are ready to avail that. Time and again, they will tell you how many people got married, how many divorced, and the like. So, in as much as that is concerned, we can get it. But is it possible to work on something like that? Because, like you say, this is a fact. Okay, then the last one is a question. A divorce is a general problem, but it's also real within the Seventh-day Adventist Church. That's why we came with a debate on our church manual section of divorce and remarriage. Why? Because we convert people, some come divorced, some come okay, they are within the divorce. And then we don't know how to baptize them or rebaptize them and the like. So my question for you is, what is your advice, particularly to Seventh-day Adventist employees who also suffer the same problem? What would you advise leaders to do or to provide as an ongoing solution?
In our area, there are some unions like in Angola, like in Zimbabwe, where in Zimbabwe they got all the leaders of the union before they became 3 unions. And they got all the leaders of the conferences, the 6 conferences, with their spouses, together for a seminar for the whole week. And we were there with them. And those are opportunities where some people who are going through some areas, they can iron them there and also become personal somewhere. They also in those areas, we can assess and refer so that they are comfortable to get a counselor who is not yourself, so that they are free. We hold confidential. Even if we have seen a pastor in your area, you will never know that we have seen him or his wife. Because confidentiality is a matter of life and death in this profession. Unlike the confidentialities that we say we'll hold them in the church elections and all that, and then we hear some things getting out of the board. But in this one, it's a matter of life and death. So in Zimbabwe, we met all the union leaders and all the conference leaders last year, and that was a good beginning. In Zambia, we met with the one conference. They specifically went for one conference. We want to do a second training and also a second visit on that. And those can be also, as a union leader, you can organize so that if we address general problems and those who are itching somewhere in particular, then we begin to refer them to some specialists in those areas, in those countries. There are some specialists in some of our countries that they might not necessarily be Adventist, but they can do help. And let us also be aware of who is there in our countries, who, if we don't. The challenge is that our professions are very few. Look in South Africa, as big a country like that. We have counted 4 psychologists in South Africa who are Adventists. And there are a few universities that are offering psychology, but our children are not going on those lines. So we need to encourage our children, our pastors to do pastoral psychology, pastoral counseling, D-Min here in AUA. We'll have a lot of manpower. Otherwise, we are few, but let us consult also with those who are non-Adventists out there.
I want to speak to a couple of things that Dr. KK raised. Your first question, I'd like to suggest to our resolutions committee that we add as a resolution that perhaps we look into seriously conducting research in the church in Africa, the 3 divisions. We've done it in the past in other divisions. When I was the North American director, we did a study of families in North America and published that study in 2010, just before the General Conference session in Atlanta. We have those instruments and certainly can make them available and speak to some of the researchers in North America who facilitated that. But I think that it's important that you have some kind of baseline information as to what's happening. It's one thing to know what's happening in society. It's another thing to know what's actually happening in the church. And I think the Adventist Church in Africa is coming of age where we need to be evidence-based in what we are, in how we are addressing the problematics that are emerging among our membership. The other issue that I want to speak to, and that is, what do we do for even young professionals whose marriages are dissolving and who are experiencing distress? For those of you who are administrators, and we have quite a number, union presidents, take it under advisement to talk to your committees about encouraging conferences to be intentional about having annual marriage retreats for their pastors. Don't wait until they're falling apart. I mentioned yesterday that Elaine and I go to something every year. We don't have a perfect marriage. We often say to people, there are no perfect marriages because there are no perfect people. So it's not about perfection, but let's be intentional about preparing ourselves so that we don't wait until we have cancer in the marriage to start walking and eating right and drinking enough water and exercising and sleeping enough. You know, these are metaphors about how we handle our health, our marriage health. Even here at the institution, I want to commend the Bakers who last year, this weekend, a year ago this weekend, we had a marriage conference here for the faculty and staff of this institution. And I saw that not everyone came. So when we have these events, we need to make them normative so people don't feel that if you come to an event like this, something is wrong with your marriage. No, what you're doing is exactly what you do if you drive a car. You don't wait until your car breaks down to take it for service. I take my car for service at regular intervals, 3,000 miles, 5,000 miles, depending on the car that you drive. You change the oil, you check the fluids, you make sure the tires are right. The same with marriage. I think it's time that in Africa, we come of age and we are strategic about how we take care of our families. If we don't do that, our families are going to get cancer, they're going to get diabetes, they're going to get all kinds of things in their marital relationships. Talking about the fact that we have baggage, that's a given. We're humans. And because we're humans and we didn't have perfect parents, we are not perfect ourselves. So that's not what we're looking for. What we're looking for is the need of being intentional of having the data or the data so that we can shoot from. My father used to say, if you shoot at nothing, you will never miss. So let's shoot at something. Let's know what that something is so that we can have solutions for that. And we can only do that if we're prepared. So for my resolutions committee, the secretary, Dr. Raquena is the secretary. Take down some notes. I think it's a great point, two great points that you brought up, and we need to begin to marinate these ideas so that we can have better flavor in the African church when it comes to our families. Let's be clear about something. When we have strong marriages, we're more likely to have strong families. We're more likely to have a strong church. Let's be intentional about doing that. Let's have healthy marriages because we are intentional about building them and sustaining them like we sustain our cars.
Let's get the last question because our time is up.
Yeah, time. Thank you very much.
You have the microphone, that's why.
Yeah. I want to speak on the perspective of empowering manpower. You see, because part of the challenge we are having as a young pastor, just as you also referred, I actually got married a month when I was exiting to teach in the seminary. But about 3 weeks after I arrived, I was already involved in this. And I think that one of the weaknesses that we have, which of course is being remedied, especially like in Babcock, for example, we take for granted that we are training pastors, they get the experience when they get to the field. I think at the basic level of even ministerial training, we should begin to be intentional of even preparing our ministers to know that they are going to handle those responsibilities. If we wait until they get a master's or a dean, the crisis is even more. So my challenge actually is that, of course, like I said, we noticed it when I was leaving Babcock, we talked about it, and it's now part of the curriculum there, that even at our undergraduate level, there should be at least a course or two to prepare, because these are ministers. We cannot avoid it. We cannot avoid it. If we wait to the plateau of empowering people, then we have a big challenge. I think that is an area I would want to really further encourage, and maybe we will think about it. I'm happy the dean issue is coming up and on, but I think we need to start very much at the basic level of ministerial training.
Let's rise up as we pray. Notre Père, notre Dieu, nous voulons te remercier pour cette occasion que tu nous as donnée de réfléchir, d'analyser les causes et les conséquences et les solutions causées par le divorce. Le diable non seulement s'est attaqué au sabbat, mais il veut maintenant détruire les foyers. Nous te prions, Père, de préserver nos foyers. Bénis ton Église en prière, au nom de Jésus. Amen.
We're transitioning to the next, and we are back, I think, at 9:30. Just sit for a second.